capacity, building of skills. We've seen this with a lot of the big push through a lot of the autism and ADHD advocacy groups, or neurodiversity advocacy groups, I should say, about looking for supervisors with lived experiences being really valuable here, because they've obviously been successful to get to their position. So it's about having people be able to have those conversations that are about, we do have this deadline, but also providing insights into how they manage systems they've put in place to support themselves. That's something I do a lot. Most of my PhD students are either ADHDers, autistic, or ADHDers, or they have other neurotypes. That's really important because I can also empathise with them and support them. So in terms of where the role of AI is, I see a triad between effective supervision. By effective, it includes accountability, but also includes accountability, but it's also mentoring and sponsorship. And I see AI having a role as being an assistant to that relationship, that dyad relationship, in the sense that the supervisor and the worker or the student can work together with AI, using AI tools, to be able to address some of those areas of need that we see quite often. Things like breaking tasks into smaller chunks, things like working together through AI, coming up with a plan for how you approach a task, how you do it in timely fashion. Those things are typically associated with executive functioning, the sequencing of tasks, which order to do things in, how to reduce working memory load, all those things we can see is really important. And AI has a role in being a tool used within that supervision relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to make sense. So you're saying like ADHD sort of coaches, that sort of framework of support sort of helps. And you're saying that like immediate support of sort of helping break down goals and helping like was those kind of more immediate executive support.
Yeah, so this is the really important bit, is that the supervisor or a coach can help to identify systems of support that work for that individual, because there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And is that supervisor helping them to understand what systems will work well for them, and then working with the individual to put in place to see how AI can be a part of those systems of support. Because things like goblin tools are wonderful for me, may not work for everyone, and the supervisor should be able to help that person, if they have the training and knowledge, to be able to identify what's going to be most effective for them.
And talking about this kind of like tools, methods that people can use to deal with these challenges, what about like if we talk about procrastination or overwhelm, like what do you feel like, maybe from your observations or experience, what do you feel like is the key point of like sort of the kind of behavioral life cycle or something? Like where do you feel like, so because you can insert supports at lots of different points, you can call out when things are getting maybe person starts getting overwhelmed or starts getting overworked or something. That maybe is it that the people don't recognize when their emotional states get to the point of like almost breaking or procrastinating, or is it that when they know they cannot action it, or is it somewhere else support should be fixed? What do you think?
Yeah, look, there's going to be multiple points, right? There's going to be, ideally, if someone discloses that they have ADHD or ADHD traits, and that's really important as well. It's getting in early is best. It's about capacity building. And so even when talking about a new project, for example, talking about as a team, and we call this universal design, using those processes that we know are essential for some, but harmful for none. Things like breaking a task down into component pieces and explicitly talking about deadlines and talking about milestone goals and talking about what we call soft targets and hard targets for timelines, for example. That's a really important one, as a whole team, having those discussions. And then having the supervisor do regular check-ins. So yes, we do know that you need to have something in place for when things go wrong, a plan B, if you will, but also starting as early as possible is really important.
Yeah, interesting. So it sounds like your kind of view on what solution might be is that it's sort of like a really advisor who has personal experience of this, kind of overlooking, occasionally checks up on person, helps to make sure that the system keep on working and do it without judgment, so the person doesn't kind of do that, like quit and never return to it again.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it even starts a step back with having hopefully all supervisors in an organization having a framework that removes the barriers for as many people as possible. Because not everyone's going to disclose they have ADHD, not everyone's going to know they have ADHD. So it's about removing barriers for as many people as possible from the start. So it's about the way that we manage projects, the way that we manage any project or any body of work, is thinking about how we can hopefully make it work for everyone by putting in place things like, structured timelines, how we can have, making really explicit the key milestones and why those milestones are important, and then breaking it into smaller chunks for people, having regular scheduled points of check-in about progress. We know ADHD is, we know interest-based nervous systems, a prevalent theory. So it's also about the way that we, assign tasks, and the way that we look at breaking down as a group on a group project, how we look at it, all those micro tasks need to be done, and how we allow people to go from strengths and interests as much as possible in completing preferred tasks.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. You mentioned the preferred tasks.
Does that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I've just lost audio. It'll come back in a second, I think. Sometimes it could just be my internet.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
How's that?
A bit late, but better than never.
No. Oh, good.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in terms of like hyper focus, it's like some people talk about it as a superpower, but from my experience, it's kind of like it's not really superpower, at least in my life, and the reason that is, is because I like get into something and then I get like off track and I get focused on things that are low priority. Like it's still related, but it's low priority, and there is no mechanism to nudge me in the right direction. I wonder, is there anything maybe you heard or about like ways of dealing with this?
Look, I'll just address the first part and just say I don't believe in the superhero narrative either. It's really key. I think it's really what where it's well intended. While it's well intended to try to reshift and reframe deficit-based thinking, it really does, I think, undermine the challenges that we do experience as neurodivergent people. I'm an ADHD myself. I think the issue is that it's almost like toxic positivity. Instead of saying, oh, it's a superpower. It's like, no, there are real challenges of this. And like you said, that going down a rabbit hole, we struggle with task switching. So we do, it's a difference. It's not better or worse. It's just a difference in how we process information. And I think the way that I prefer it is talking about differences, not deficits. But those differences come with challenges, right? So it is the superpower narrative is harmful because it undermines the need for support we have sometimes. in for example, like you said, the rabbit hole phenomenon. And we do need people to make explicit what is important, and then we need systems of support that allows us to stay on track for those things. Because there are real risks, right? If we go in hyperfocus, we get down the wrong task, we miss a key deadline, or we focus on something that's incidental, you know, you focus so much on the bark, you don't see the forest,
Mm. Yeah.
so to speak. That's a real thing for a lot of us, yeah. And even like there's bits things that interest me, and that's why academia is great. But I can go to things that interest me.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah.
Mm. Mm. But would you have any kind of like maybe a strategy for, or maybe something you personally have seen being effective, like to deal with those? You know, like if I know that I'm gonna go into hyperfocus, it's like reminders, but maybe we don't want something to snap us out of the hyperfocus either, because we like overjudge what we're focusing on, then it's like kills the vibe a little bit. Yeah, would you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So sorry, could you repeat the question? Sorry, someone's
Yeah.
trying to message me as well.
Yes. So the question is like, if the idea of hyperfocus, it can be like so being somebody with ADHD, it can be hard to do things harder than for an average person. So hyperfocus kind of helps because it gets us into that kind of rhythm.
Yeah.
But the problem with hyperfocus is, as you said, that it can get us into focusing on like unimportant barbs in the forest.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, is there any, but then if we kind of judge it too much, then we quit, then the hyperfocus breaks because we judge too much
It
judge.
does, yeah. It's really like so. What I've found for me personally, and for quite a few of my ADHD colleagues,
Mhm.
is we know there's some of those challenges around executive function, particularly things like working memory and selective attention, are a real challenge for us.
Mhm.
In the sense that we either struggle with attending to too many things in the environment, not being able to tune things out,
Mhm.
or we ignore important stimuli because we are hyper focused one way or the other.
Mhm.
So for us, we get the idea that if we think we set up our routines of work to allow us to hyper focus, but putting in place safeguards so it's not us having to self monitor per se. It's offloading. So, for example, I use, and you probably can't see because my virtual background, I use an analog timer.
Right. Yeah.
And it's giving yourself permission saying, hey, in my day, when I plan out my day, I do have an hour for writing here. And it's saying in that hour, I can write as much as I want. But I do need to check my messages and my emails in between. So I'll close off all my messaging apps, set the hour and go. And that will allow me to hyper focus. And sometimes I'll write 100 words and go off and read, like 3 articles or something. And it's saying that's okay because I've said I need to have this many words by today, breaking it down to small chunks by the end of the day, done. And so what it means is I'll come back at the end after that. I won't get angry at myself. I'll just allow contingency time in my schedule saying, hey, if I've got distracted during the day, I'll block out time that's catch up time for things, if that makes sense. And having that planned in advance, because we do go off topic, we go down rabbit holes. Having that planned into your daily work schedule really is really important.
Yeah.
I don't reward myself I don't think about it as being a reward that if I don't need that contingency time, I say I get to go to the pub or I get to go do something fun that I want to do. I say that if I don't need that contingency time, I can start working on something for tomorrow.
Right.
So it's trying to take away that reward system out of it,
Yeah.
but just blocking out blocks of time for contingency, because we do know that as part of how my brain works, I will go off on tangents sometimes. And just planning for that. Does that make sense?
It sounds like what you do is kind of like you time block, so you kind of have fixed time blocks so that if there is damage, you kind of like constrain the damage to that block because you have to kind of break out of that sort of thing to do emails. Um,
Yeah.
and
And
then,
and it's thinking about how I know my brain works.
mm,
Um, yeah, how I know my brain works is really important because um, that makes a big difference
mhm,
to how I plan my day. So I know that I work best with, things like attending to non-preferred tasks in the morning because my medication's the strongest, right? So it's just
mm,
knowing that that is a that is a helpful way of yeah,
mhm.
a helpful way of approaching certain problems and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. I think.
so I do have to go in 1 minute. I'm just getting messages.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. This was very helpful. I even not only the interview, but also I got some very interesting ideas from this. Thank you.
No, my pleasure, Ross. Good to speak with you,
Yeah.
and best of luck. See
Yes.
ya.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.